The Arab Spring may have shifted the tectonic plates across much of the Middle East, but Saudi Arabia appears immune to change, as does its relationship with the UK. The King of Saudi Arabia is hosting David Cameron today for talks on trade and security. And with me now are the former Foreign Minister, Lord Malloch-Brown, Andrew Khan, who ran UK Trade and Investment, and also the journalist Nabila Ramdani. Welcome to you all. This is one of the strange rituals of British foreign policy, these periodic visits paid by whoever happens to be Prime Minister to Saudi Arabia, because it's so important, I guess.
It is important. I mean, I believe the Saudis are a little resentful this didn't happen sooner, and so you can't at all say that it's wrong for the Prime Minister to go, because there are huge trade interests, there are huge shared security interests in the region. It's a very important relationship.
Does it amount to kowtowing, do you think?
I don't think it amounts to kowtowing. I mean, we have, they are major investors in the UK, but there's also a major trade relationship. We sell them a lot, but they are critical to our shared goals in terms of Iran and Syria, in terms of regional security and foreign policy. So, you know, right to go. Difficult visit, lots of problems, but right to go.
And Andrew Khan, we're hoping there's a few bob in it.
There should be. Saudi Arabia is our largest trading partner in the Middle East. It's growing at a phenomenal rate. They love our education, they love our healthcare, they love our engineering, and their infrastructure is expanding enormously.
Yeah, and they love our weapons as well.
They love our weapons, they love our defence and our security exports, and we're very good at them. We export very good product and very good kit.
So, and you would have no qualms about supplying them with military equipment? I mean, if you look back at, for example, what happened in Bahrain.
I have no qualms about Britain being one of the most successful defence and security exporters in the world. We're sometimes number one, sometimes number two, sometimes number three. We're in the absolute top tier. The important thing is that we have a really effective arms control regime in place to make sure that we export the right kit to the right people and not the wrong kit to the wrong people. And we do. I think we have one of the best regimes in the world.
No, but do you think Britain should have such a free and easy relationship with Saudi Arabia? I mean, is it a good place, good country?
No, I think any relationship comes with responsibility, and I think what Cameron's visit brings into sharp focus, it's Britain's extraordinarily ambiguous and, dare I say, hypocritical relationship with the Arab world in general. On the one hand, we've seen how it goes to war to bring about regime change and overthrow Arab dictators, and yet on the other hand, it does everything it possibly can to maintain these people in place by providing them with the latest in intelligence.
What's wrong with Saudi Arabia? And we're told they're a force for stability and...
well, it's a massively sinister regime. It's one based on oppression, a blatant lack of human rights, and yet Mr. Cameron is talking about broadening and indeed deepening its relationship with Saudi Arabia. And at the heart of all this is, in my opinion, hugely lucrative weapon contracts based on, as these two gentlemen said, selling Britain's heavy weaponry in terms of defence. But I think the real bone of contention is when it comes to selling crowd control techniques, weaponry aimed at suppressing protests. And that is really sinister.
Actually, I think the government said today that some of that stuff it actually has held back from selling. But I mean, you know, they're not ideologically our allies at all.
No, look, there is no doubt foreign policy is always a combination of national interest and the global value bit. And in the case of Saudi Arabia,
I mean,
national interest. No, this is a long way.
Or foreign policy with ethical dimension.
This is a long way from an ethical foreign policy. This is a real politic one, if you like. And I actually share some of the anxiety about the arms sales. I mean, this has gotten Britain into deep trouble in the past. It's not a healthy business. It may be a necessary business because, you know, in a world where Saudi Arabia is a very wealthy but relatively small state demographically compared to Syria and particularly to Iran, you know, Saudi Arabia has legitimate self-defense interests. And, you know, for me, the solution to this is to get to the point of a regional peace where neighbors are not threatening each other and one can see them run down their armaments, because, you know, some very bad people have a lot of weapons in this region and are willing to use them.
And I mean, we don't want to be on the wrong side if the House of Saud falls, do we?
We don't. But look, our defence industry provides the most apprentices in this country. It provides the most R&D in this country. It provides the really high-level engineering in this country, and it provides a huge number of jobs. either we're a defense contractor or we're not. I believe it's perfectly reasonable for us to be, and it's not just defense, it's defense and security. It's an enormous amount of kit, stuff like the security equipment, scanning equipment at
crowd
airports.
control equipment.
No, at
so,
airports.
I mean, do we help them being able to repress
look,
their own
either
people?
we're in this industry or we're not. I believe it's perfectly legitimate to be in this industry. It's a respectable and proper industry. You've just got to control it properly. You've got to make sure your arms export arrangements are proper. I have confidence in them. I agree that in the past there have been problems. They've been overhauled. They've been overhauled several times. I think they're now some of the toughest in the world.
Nabila Ramdani, I mean, one argument I think that might be made is that there's great concern in the region, which Britain and America share, about Iran at the moment, and that Saudi Arabia is basically the regional power which balances Iran.
Yeah, well, Saudi Arabia has been rattled by both the overthrow of a long-standing ally, Mubarak in Egypt, and the recent tensions in Iran. But if Mr. Cameron thinks that reassuring the Saudis in a time like this is important, then I think he doesn't understand the spirit of the Arab Spring at all.
Isn't it important to say we're not going to allow Iran to do what it threatens, for example, to stop free passage of ships through the Gulf?
I think the fundamental problem in all this is that Western countries, and not just Britain, are looking at Arab countries as business propositions purely and simply, and that is wrong.
Well, I think it's a little differentiated. I mean, I think that, your point is half right. We look at the countries of the Gulf through that prism.
Well, I suspect they will be talking quite a lot about Iran, won't they?
I think they will be.
And Syria.
They will, but I mean, again, the point is, Saudi is on trade and on security a key partner. That does not mean that the UK has to sit back and accept its human rights record or accept arms sales of all kinds which could be used domestically.
I doubt very much that Mr. Cameron will be discussing the lack of rights for women, for example, or fundamental human rights with his Saudi counterpart.
He won't be discussing it as much as you or I would like, I'm sure about that. He'll mention it because someone will ask him in Parliament and he'll want to be able to say, I raised it. But is it as prominent in the dialogue as it should be?
Gesture.
I agree.
But
No.
Adam, he will be mentioning some of the other trade. Let's not focus only on defence. Britain's the second largest investor in Saudi Arabia after America. Let me give you one example. With Tate & Lyle, with a local partner, produce more than 100% of the sugar requirements of Saudi Arabia. That's a good thing that we do things like that. Saudi is also building a huge amount of infrastructure. For example, 6 economic cities. The King Abdullah economic city is bigger than the whole of Hong Kong, and Britain is, our architects, our quantity surveyors, our engineers, our power people, all of them are contributing to this. Now, this is contributing to the development, the economic development, and that will lead to the social development of Saudi Arabia.
I mean, one thing that you would like David Cameron to do today, that within the bounds of possibility he could do, what would that be?
I think it's very important to have a trade relationship with any country, but that, as I said, comes with responsibility, and it comes with helping those countries to build up civil societies.
Thank you all very much indeed. Full reports, of course, on that visit here on Sky News. Well, 2 separate cases taking place today are stoking the row over Britain's extradition deal with the United States. The Sheffield student, Richard O'Dwyer, as we've been hearing, could stand trial after allegedly breaking US copyright laws on his website, while this morning a retired businessman, Christopher Tappin, lost his appeal after being accused of trying to sell missile components to Iran. His lawyer, Karen Todner, who also has represented Gary McKinnon, joins me now from Oxford. Let's start with Mr. Tappin. Is that it? He's going to America to face trial?